Hey, welcome back to the Spector Creative channel. It's so nice to be making videos again now that my channel's full speed ahead, hence the Admiral's hat today. All right, enough with the ship imagery. What I want to talk about today is some simple, easy ways to fix your collection. Yet, there's a lot of resistance to this from collectors, and it's an interesting phenomenon worth discussing. Let's dive in. All right, so what am I talking about fixing your collection? Well, let's take Cyclops here, right? The original release from the Warlock wave had these infamous bands that kind of fell off and would jiggle around. Yet they don't jiggle around on this version. Why is that? Because they're super glued in place. Just glue things that fall apart or fall off that annoy you. It's super easy to fix. You don't need to go buy a new Cyclops figure. I mean, you can if you want to. I happen to like the build of this one because it's a little thinner. But it was easily fixed with super glue. Another one that this happens to is my Imperial officers. Every time they fall down, their hats fall off. Well, again, instead of complaining about this or saying they should include, a second head with the helmet on, just glue the helmet on. I mean, are you really ever going to display him without the helmet on? It's your collection, and I get that when you do these things, it's no longer in mint condition, but it's your collection, and it's very liberating to take control of your collection, and I find modifying figures to improve them does this. So let me give you another cool example. So Gambit, the original one on the left and mine on the right. Mine on the right is improved in a few ways. I have a different head. The head comes from this Gambit. So I bought the Banshee pack because I wanted Banshee. But as a bonus, I got a Gambit, and I was like, ooh, I'll put that head on the original body. And further improve this figure by swapping out the accessory. So that cool accessory he's got in his hand is from the Gambit on the far left. That's the Toy Biz Marvel Legends one. So by combining accessories from one figure, a head from another, and a body from a third, I've created my Gambit. Another way I'd do this is when I got Longshot. I also borrowed his satchel, since I didn't want to give him the satchel, and since I had a Gambit figure that I didn't need and a belt that I didn't need, well, I was able to take the belt off of Gambit and put it on Forge and give him Longshot's satchel, making him a better version of Forge. And I glued the little things, fringes, on his boots. This Dazzler is a single-carded figure, but the blasts are from the original roller skating version. With Rogue, I swapped the heads because the new version had a better head, but the original one had the better colors for the body that matched the rest of my X-Men. I was able to make an original Mary Jane figure by taking a Moira McTaggart figure and a Gwen Stacy figure and then combining parts to create a original Mary Jane that wasn't just two versions of Gwen Stacy with two different heads. That looked weird. So now I have a Mary Jane that is completely unique. You can also just, again, accessories can really improve a display by taking an accessory from one figure, like Zero, putting it on Doctor Strange, or I have the Dark Saber from the new version of Mandalorian, the one from the Circle City, Galvin Round Circle, whatever it is. Likewise, I gave that figure the jets from Iron Man to plug into his backpack. So, I gave away his sword, but gave him jets. And I armored up Mighty Spector with a hoverboard and a purple lightsaber because, I happen to think those are cool things. Another interesting way you can improve displays is by cleverly swapping scales. I've talked about how after you get more than a half an inch above, you really can't have a 7-inch and a 6-inch figure. They don't look in scale. But I was able to fix that by putting my Iceman all the way at the top and using perspective to make him not appear bigger than Firestar. So I kind of pulled that off with a forced perspective. Likewise, I went a little bit more extreme on Darkhawk. I really didn't want him to have his wings, especially because those are modern wings, and most of the time in the 1991 series, he doesn't have his wings out. So I cut him off with an X-Acto knife, and then I painted over in blue and silver. It's an extreme measure. It's probably the only figure I've modified with an X-Acto knife, but man, he looks so much better without the wings. I'm sorry. That's my 91 Darkhawk. Now, boiling is an option for plastic, especially when you have stuck joints. But there's another solution that boiling can provide for figures, and that's when you have warped figures that come out of the package. So my Jean Grey here, you can see her leg is funky. It's kind of like bendy out from her. She's not standing straight. And so what I did is I popped her, and same thing with Storm. She wasn't standing straight, and I just boiled their legs in water, holding them with tongs above the water for about a minute. Actually, less than that, probably more like 30 seconds. And boom, now her legs, once they cooled down, took their original position from the original mold, not the compressed version from that inner blister. All right, I talked about forced perspective. So here I have a 6-inch figure from Black Panther. It's actually a Black Panther head on Chameleon's body to create my Watson for my Sherlock. Sherlock is 5 inches, Watson is 6, but again, forced perspective now gives me more characters. All right, the last ones are creating brand new characters out of parts. Now, you obviously can do this all the time. I'm a big fan of the Rebel pilots, and we've gotten tons of original Rebel pilot figures, especially in the 3 3/4 scale over the years. Well, there was one Rebel pilot that never really got made that I liked, and that was this dude. And by dude, because he's just a generic pilot. In fact, he's so generic that he was used on the Decipher card game as the Rebel pilot. And I was a huge fan of this game, and this card got played a lot. And so I always wanted a figure of this generic pilot that just had the blue emblem on his helmet. Well, luckily, we do have that helmet. It comes with Dak Rattler. So I bought an extra Dak Rattler, and I took his helmet and I put it on a X-Wing body, because the Snowspeeder has the extra part, and now, boom, I have a generic blue helmeted or blue Rebel insignia figure for my Rebel pilot shelf. Brand new figure, never made, but I think completely legit. All right, and then here's an interesting another one. See that Indiana Jones figure front and center, the one with him with the torch? I joked about this being a Patriot Games figure on my April Fool's joke video, but let's take a look. Hasbro made a figure based on Indiana Jones as a professor from the very beginning of Last Crusade, when he talks to Donovan and gets the Grail Diary. This is the figure here. It came in a closed box, unfortunately, like all 2023 figures. But he came notably with a torch and with the last marker, the shield that gets buried with the knight's dead brother here in Venice. Now, in Venice, he's not dressed up in his professor garb. He has a suit and tie, and for a while, a hat. But he eventually loses the hat when he goes underground for the action, and there you can see the torch and the shield that come with the previous Indiana Jones professor figure. So he doesn't use the shield or that torch when he's in this outfit, I guess. But he does when he's in this suit. So how in the world did I make this figure? Well, again, I made a little April Fool's Day joke about this being a Patriot Games figure of Jack Ryan, which it works as. What it is the bad guy from the Dial of Destiny movie, where I basically just did a head swap. So got a second version of Professor Jones and popped off the head and popped it on this guy's body, and boom, now you have an accurate Indiana Jones Venice Catacombs figure. You just use the accessories again from Professor. Of course, you do wind up with an extra Professor body, and you could pop, the German dude's head on that, or I actually have it on my shelf as a different Professor. Just you're using some Marvel Legends heads and stuff. All right, so those are some simple ways to improve your collection. Very little cost. You just have the guts to do it, to actually move parts around or to, cut off parts or glue parts. Do you? Let me know in the comments. I'd like to know if this is the way you collect as well. Thanks for watching. Thanks for sharing. And I'll see you guys in the next video.